The Miami 2022 final is here. We're going to be previewing it. Carlos Alcaraz versus Casper Ruud. I tell you what, a lot of people wouldn't have predicted this final. I didn't. I actually predicted Alcaraz to win the tournament, but I know a lot of people in the tennis world would have thought maybe a little bit too early. But he does make his first ATP 1000 Masters final in Miami in 2022, when 17 years earlier, at the same age, Rafa Nadal, at the age of 18, made his Masters final debut at Miami as well. The same tournament. He did make the final there, and he lost to Roger Federer in a fantastic match in 2005. Can Alcaraz go one better? Can he actually win where Nadal couldn't on his debut Masters final? Of course, Nadal going on to win Monte Carlo after that loss in that final. This is a really intriguing matchup because Casper Ruud as well, for him, I guess it's a little bit of a surprise. He's made lots of semi-finals on Masters 1000 tournaments on the clay, but he hasn't really been seen as someone who's particularly good on the hard courts. And obviously, there's the infamous exchange between himself and also Kyrgios, with Kyrgios calling him, I think, something along the lines of a dirt rat, basically saying that he was just, a clay court specialist, and kind of just preyed on that kind of second little swing of clay to progress through the rankings. A little bit harsh in that sense, but I think he's shown that, look, he's a lot more than that. He has adapted very well on the hard courts, and he's looked pretty good as well, I think, throughout. The winner is very, very impressive. Zverev not playing his best tennis, yes, but still a very good win nonetheless. And he continues to go from strength to strength. He's very young himself, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles the explosive nature of Alcaraz's game. Ruud will be looking to be very consistent for sure. 23 years of age, so similar to her catch in the semi-final, again, someone who's relatively young. Of course, Alcaraz, almost another generation at 18 years of age. Before we get into it, first of all, I'm going to go through the run-up to the finals, so how each player has played throughout the tournament, who they've beaten, how they've beaten them, how they've looked, and then also we'll talk about strategically what the matchup will be like, how Alcaraz, what he needs to do to win, what Ruud needs to do to win, and what the, I guess, major dynamics will be. For example, serve, return dynamic, etc. So we'll look into that. Before we do that, please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. It really does help us out, and there's been some fantastic support, to be perfectly honest with you, as of late, and we are looking to reach that 3K subscriber mark as soon as possible. So thank you very much, guys, for your support. And of course, as always, we will be having regular content as we have been for the tennis. And if you are interested in other sports as well, we do cover some of those, so do check that out as well. Right, let's get into this. So obviously, Alcaraz ranked currently at number 16 and Ruud at number 8. I think if Alcaraz actually wins, he will be just outside the top 10. He'll be at number 11. So if we look at the head-to-head, or head-to-head, they call it head-to-head, but really it's the route to the final. So we'll have a look here in Miami for Alcaraz. You can see a Fucsovic, a straight set win for him. Straight sets over Cilic as well, a former US Open champion, so Grand Slam winner there. Then Stefanos Tsitsipas, that was a really good match to watch. I think Tsitsipas didn't play a particularly bad level. Alcaraz just played some phenomenal tennis, and the game plan that the tactics I think that he employed, he was able to execute to a T. The drop shots, the lobs, the passing shots. Tsitsipas likes to come to the net and likes to kind of shorten the points, especially against someone like Alcaraz, who realistically, he doesn't want to be hanging on the baseline with him for large periods. And I think that's why Alcaraz had the success he did. That's a matchup that I think Tsitsipas will not enjoy throughout his whole career, but you never know. You never know with these players. They're so young, they can definitely adapt. And then Kecmanovic gave Alcaraz the most trouble, you would say. Took a set off Alcaraz, and he has been in phenomenal form in the last 6 months or so. But Alcaraz just managing to grind it through in a deciding set tiebreaker. And then the match against Hurkacz, which I covered last night, thanks to those who joined the live stream. Do check out my post-match review for that. It's a separate video uploaded on the channel where I give my full breakdown of it. But yeah, 2 tiebreakers, no breaks to serve. Alcaraz just had enough, and Hurkacz, the reigning Miami champion, definitely played very well for the most part. Very good serving performance on the first serve for sure. And for Alcaraz, it was just a case of, managing his service games well, saving a couple of break points in big moments. And then in the tiebreakers, he played some clutch points. And that was really the difference to sum it up. For Casper Ruud, he's had an interesting run. Probably not, I say not as strong a field, but that's not really of any fault of his own. So you can see here, he played Laxonen in the first round. That was, a pretty decent first round draw to get. Bublik, though, has been in pretty good form as of late. So that was a very impressive win in straight sets. And then against Cam Norrie, I think, again, Cam Norrie was injured. He did have a calf strapping throughout that whole match. But again, it's still a very good win over someone who's been in very good form as of late. And then we see, of course, here Zverev, who, has been disappointing so far in 2022, to be perfectly honest with you. I remember before, at the end of 2021, Zverev said who were going to be the players to look out for, or kind of, going into 2022. And he said, look, I think myself, Medvedev, and Djokovic are going to be like a new big three. Now, Medvedev has made the final of the Australian Open, and he's also made, he's gone deep in a couple of tournaments, but, probably hasn't done as well as he would have liked as well. For Zverev, though, he's been incredibly disappointing, to be fair. And of course, a lot going on with the Acapulco situation and investigations on top of it. Don't know whether that's affected him, but either way, Casper Ruud getting his way in that quarterfinal. And then against Cerundolo, a very talented young Argentinian, but Casper Ruud just almost seemed to have too much experience for him. A lot more consistent on the day. And in fact, we can have a look into the stats a little bit, because I'd like to have a look into that as well. Just kind of better overall on the serve, especially Casper Ruud, 6 aces to 1. First serve percentage around the same at 60%, but first serve points won at 84% is really impressive from Ruud. And return points won as well. Really impressive. 51% of return points won, which is really, really good. So against Alcaraz, who's got a better serve than Cerundolo, it won't be the same, you'd imagine. But in saying that, it definitely will be an intriguing matchup. So let's then try and break it down strategically. I think Casper Ruud obviously is someone who hits the ball with a huge amount of topspin, especially on the forehand side. A lot of clearance. Doesn't necessarily flatten out the forehand, although I think he started to try and do it more on the hard courts, especially because he knows he gets more value for that forehand. Yes, it's slightly more high risk, but when the ball is kind of shorter in the court and he's able to come onto it, I think he knows, look, I need to be hitting with a bit more kind of venom, maybe a little bit less topspin and flatter through the court to really penetrate through that court and rush my opponent rather than giving him more time. But the forehand cross court's always been very good clearance, fantastic topspin, and really does kick off the court. He needs to have a good serving display against Alcaraz, to be perfectly honest with you. So if we look at it from Ruud's point of view first, he needs to serve really well. I think he served at 61% in the semi-final. He needs to be at least at that, I would say, if not higher. His serve is not the most harmful serve on tour. It's not the biggest. He can, I think, reach the 125 mile per hour mark, but he can't go anywhere beyond that. And for his height, to be fair, though, he does utilize it to the best of his ability. He does really try his hardest to make it as potent as possible and tries to hit his spots. The issue he might have is that he sometimes struggles to go to the backhand side in large periods. But I think for him, against Cerundolo, he actually targeted the backhand on the serve, and it worked because Cerundolo has a very visible weakness on that backhand side, especially returning. For Alcaraz, he doesn't have that. Now, that could be an issue, I think, for Ruud, is that realistically, Alcaraz is going to be probably making a lot of returns. Now, if these returns are very deep, is Ruud going to be able to hit a +1 shot that A, is deep enough in the court, and B, low risk enough that he doesn't make a lot of unforced errors trying to hit a more kind of neutral to aggressive 1+ shot? I'm not so sure. I think he could have a lot of tricky service games. However, The same could be said against about Alcaraz, and we've seen, I think, maybe one of the slight weaknesses, and probably the only weakness in his game that I can see personally, is the serve. At times, I think his serve selection is a bit strange. He'll hit like a big kick serve, but it'll be at 96 miles an hour for a first serve. I think you've got to really hit your spot and almost try and hit an ace if you're going to do that. Um, and I think also the second serve is around the 90 to 100 mile per hour mark. I think he at times was a bit tight against her catch and didn't quite go for it as much. I think he'll need to be on top of his game there as well. Um, and doesn't always hit his spots, Alcaraz, as well. That's the biggest thing for me. As he gets older with more experience, he will, of course, hone that part of his game. But it's something that I think Casper Ruud, with the kind of return stats that we've seen with him in this tournament, I think it will be something that he'll be looking at and thinking, look, okay, I can get an inroad into the Carlos Alcaraz serve. I'm probably going to need that because I may potentially get broken myself. I want to look after my serve as much as possible, but if I don't, and even if I do, I want to be able to get into the Alcaraz serve as much as possible. And I think he will have some opportunities. And I think the biggest factor, because I think personally, in terms of serving, I do think they're around the same level, to be perfectly honest with you. The biggest difference is going to be the 1+ play, and also does Carlos Alcaraz utilize a serve volley, which I think he utilized very well in parts against her catch. He didn't, of course, just go to it all the time. He mixed it up and varied it. I thought it was really good. And the 1+ shot from Alcaraz, similar to someone like Nadal, is he tries to make as many forehands as possible on that 1+ shot, and he makes a lot of them. His movement's very good, especially into the backhand corner, running around the backhand, and he hits huge into-out forehands. And into Ruud's backhand, that is something that he will potentially struggle with. Ruud. The backhand it's not particularly bad, but I wouldn't say it's a particularly good weapon either. Ruud comes across the type of player who's steady, consistent, tries to make a lot of balls and kind of limit the unforced errors, and then try and dictate when he can on the forehand side. So for Alcaraz, he will be targeting that backhand side for sure, you would imagine, and I'm sure he will have some success. For Ruud, he'll be hoping to try and put Alcaraz on the back foot as much as possible. I think with the forehand, he's going to potentially have to go for a little bit more on it. He's going to have to flatten out the forehand at times, especially if he gets into longer exchanges. And for him, it's going to be difficult because someone like Hakac was able to come to the net because that's part of his game, to finish off at the net. So he'll serve volley, he'll come to the net a lot. Ruud's game is not really to come to the net much. So for me, it's a really difficult matchup because he wins the majority of his points from the baseline. But in the baseline exchanges, I don't think he's going to win the lion's share of the points, personally. And Alcaraz has a different kind of look to his game where he can, yes, hit with you from the baseline, but he can also hit those drop shots, those fantastic drop shots, hit lobs to pass people, and then also, serve volley as well. And he's not scared to come into the net. Now, I don't think Ruud's scared to come to the net, but again, it's not his natural habitat coming into the net. It's really not natural for him from what I've seen. He doesn't volley badly, but I don't think it's particularly where he wants to be a lot of the time. So whether he tries to employ that, I don't know. It's not a bad option against Alcaraz, especially if Alcaraz is standing very far back on the return to serve volley. He stood back, I think. So in the previous rounds before he played her catch, he was actually just over a meter outside of the baseline or behind the baseline for first serve returns. So basically coming into the baseline. And against her catch, he was almost, I think it was like 5 meters. That's probably to do with how big her catch serves as well. I don't think he'll be that far back against Ruud, but if he's even 3 meters, I think Casper Ruud should try and utilize a slice serve out wide, especially on the juice side. And on the ad side, trying to hit a big kick serve out wide to the backhand and come in to behind that serve. Not all the time, but as a change up. And I think it will be useful for sure. And he might get some free points at times. Alcaraz, of course, is very speedy. He's very fit. He'll get to a lot of the balls, but it doesn't matter if you're able to get to them if you're very unbalanced, because a lot of the time that means that, yes, you'll make your opponent play an extra shot, but Ruud will be expecting that and then hopefully it'll be for him an easy volley or a shorter ball to then put away. So that's kind of how I see it. My prediction is going to be Alcaraz to win. I think he'll be able to do what Rafa Nadal wasn't able to and win at the first time of asking. Of course, a lot of it will be down to how physically tired both are, but I think both should be okay. So I'm going to go Alcaraz. I'm going to go Alcaraz in straight sets, actually. But don't sleep on Casper Ruud. He's a very, very good clay, not just clay court, but hard court player as well. Much improved as well. So very much looking forward to it. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And of course, do remember to follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also do check out our Patreon if you're interested in some cool perks. In addition, we do have an exciting opportunity to potentially join the QualityShot team. We've had some inquiries already and we're kind of working through those, so do send some more through as well. It's on the community tab of our YouTube page. But yeah, do check it out. And if you can't find it or you just want to ask me what it's about, just email me at qualityshot.f@gmail.com. That's the query, your interest, and also if you just want to shortcut having to check out YouTube and you want to discuss it with me straight away, that's fine as well, and I can fill you in. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and see you on the next video.